G'day, welcome to Kel's Corner. I've been wanting to put this video together for a little while. Basically, been pretty hard to find Australian videos on compact tractors and sort of a little bit of comparison and reasoning as to why people have gone with them. So yeah, basically in this video, I'm going to talk you through our little Kioti CK4220 and what we got with it, and then also why we went with this tractor rather than the John Deere or the Kubota, of similar specs, and then also why we went with the cab model CK42 rather than the open station DK48. Righto, we'll get into it. All right, so as I said, this is basically our little tractor we ended up with. It is a Kioti CK4220. Obviously it's the cab model, air conditioned cab, and it came standard with the Kioti KL4010 loader. I think that's just how they come. I'm not really too sure if you can get them without the loader or why you would if you can. The reason why we went with the Kioti rather than a Kubota is basically cost, then the reliability and service, and then the third thing is the loader lift capacity of it as well. So first things first, the cost. Obviously John Deere, for what you get in a similar spec tractor, you're going to be paying quite a bit more money. You know, I'd say that they probably are a bit more of a reliable machine. You can probably get parts a little bit more easily, although the parts do come with that extra cost as well. So yeah, anyway, basically the John Deere priced us out of what we're looking for. Then we come to the Kubota. So Kubota I found was quite comparable with the Kioti. The main advantage, or the two main advantages that I found with the Kioti versus the Kubota is firstly the forward and back pedals. This here's got the twin touch similar to the John Deere, whereas the Kubota has like a heel and toe sort of a thing. So you put your foot on the back of it and it goes backwards, put your foot on the front and it goes forward. So yeah, much prefer the twin touch, and that was probably a bit of a deal breaker really for the Kubota for me. But obviously if you don't mind that heel and toe, then the Kubota might be the way to go for you. The other thing that set the Kioti apart from the Kubota is the load lift capacity. So for a similar spec tractor, the Kiotis have a much higher load lift capacity than pretty much any other tractor on the market. I think even John Deere, these guys beat spec wise. So yeah, that's basically why we went with the Kioti rather than a Kubota or John Deere. Once I had decided that I wanted to go with the Kioti tractor, the next step was to figure out which one to go for. I was originally quite set on the DK48, so 48 raw horsepower, we ended up with 42. But the DK48 also has the next frame size. This is the CK rather than DK. So slightly different spec wise and wheelbase and everything else in terms of the size. For the same sort of money, so about that 45 to 50 grand Australian when we got it, and that's, you know, all in with the slasher and the forks and everything else. We could have got the DK in an open station or the CK with the cab. Not really a deal break, but it was something that I was quite keen on, having a cab. I think that they're, you know, for that extra money, even though it's about an extra 10 grand or thereabouts, I personally think it's worth the money. It's, you know, up to you what you want to decide, but been out in this thing when it's pissing down rain, been out in, you know, 45 plus degrees with the aircon on, you know, grading the road and stuff like that, like just doing a few little odd jobs. Been able to shift stuff anytime, not have to worry about, yeah, getting rained on, getting too cold, getting too hot. Like it's, you know, might sound like a bit of a luxury, which I suppose it is, but yeah, definitely makes life a lot easier. The other thing about having the cab is having kids. So obviously not really recommended to have kids on the tractor with you, but if you are going to, I think it's a lot easier and safer having the cab, that they can't just jump out and yeah, get themselves stuck under wheels and stuff, which is obviously not ideal. Also, having that climate control makes it a little bit easier. We have got a bub, and at the moment he's a 5-year-old as well, so it means you can jump in there, not have to worry too much about, you know, what you got them clothed in. And I've had a couple of times as well that I've been wanting to go out and do some slashing, and the wife's either been at work or been busy doing something else, and it means I can just chuck bub in the sling, chuck Kiddo up behind me. There's a nice little sort of seat up where the window is. It's not quite a dicky seat, but it's a good spot for him to sit. Where he's out the way, not sort of interfering with controls and things. And yeah, I've had Bub fall asleep in my lap while I'm out there slashing. So definitely quite handy for that, to have that climate control. Also you can have the music on, or kiddo can be watching his iPad or tablet or whatever he's got when he's wanting to be in there with you. So yeah, definitely keeps them occupied while you want to try and get a bit done, which is quite bloody handy if I'm honest. The other thing about this CK4220 versus the 4210. So the 4210 is the open station version of the CK42, and the CK4220 is the Hydrostat. It's sort of the, not quite top spec, but it's the up spec model of the 42. It's got 2 sets of rear remotes, which is quite handy. I think definitely having one is, you know, almost a deal breaker to have it. Whereas I think the DK48 was an added extra. So at the moment, I'm only using one of those sets of rear remotes for the rear top link. But yeah, definitely a worthy investment. As I mentioned before, it did come with a 4-in-1 bucket, so it's got the button on the joystick. It hasn't got the 2 buttons to open and close, it's just got 1 button and then you use your left and right with. But yeah, again, quite a handy feature. It has got the cruise control, which I think is a bit of a gimmick. Haven't really used it, but if you've got nice flat land and you want to do some slashing or something like that, I suppose it could be quite handy. The link pedal for the Hydrostat. So if you hit the link pedal on, put your foot down on the forward pedal or the backward pedal, it'll rev your motor up accordingly. So you don't need to worry about getting your revs right before you start driving. It has got the door on both sides. Obviously the left side is the one that you're going to use the most, as it's got the steps and stuff, and this one here's got the pedals and things in the way. So yeah, definitely a lot easier to use the left, but it has got it so you can go through if you need to. So definitely, I think that for us anyway, and for what we wanted to use it for, having the cab ended up being the thing that sold this versus the 48. The other thing that I didn't really consider, but when we were talking to the dealer, he mentioned the frame size, and initially I was wanting to go for that DK, having a slightly bigger size, a bit of a heavier footprint so you can get in there and do a bit more ripping and stuff like that. Whereas this one here, having the smaller frame size, I first thought it was going to be a bit of a detriment, but it's actually made it a bit easier that now we can get in between little laneways and things. We can get in between. I've made a new dog cage up the back, so we can get in behind that. It's got the 5-foot slasher on, and the wheels are pretty much right in line with that. We're going to be putting in some permanent veggie beds as well, which having that smaller frame size is going to be pretty much ideal to get those, the 30 to 40 inch beds. So yeah, initially it was a bit of a downside to getting this one, but in the end I'm quite happy that we did it. So as I mentioned before, we're on 5 acres. We're on 7 acres, sorry, but if you got that sort of 2 to 10 acre block, I reckon this size tractor would probably do you quite well. There's a few things you go a little bit slower on. Definitely if you're ripping, it's obviously going to be a little bit slower than something a bit bigger, but yeah, you just rev it up a bit and sit in the aircon and enjoy the ride. So it's not really the end of the world. All right, so we can't quite see everything in this shot that we got. The main reason for that is that we have got a rotary hoe, which is not here, it's at a mate's place. So yeah, other than that, this is pretty much what we've got. With the purchase of the tractor, so again, I can't remember the exact dollars, about 50 grand, somewhere between 45 and 55 grand when we got it. We got the tractor with the loader, with a set of pallet forks. These are bloody handy. If you're wanting to get a tractor, I would get the forks with it. These are Quicke forks. The tractor itself came with a Euro hitch, which again is one thing that's a little bit different in this video that you'll see versus quite a few of the American videos. On the American compact tractors, you generally see the skid steer quick attach and the John Deere quick attach. In Australia, a lot of the John Deeres do have the John Deere quick attach, but then you also get a lot of John Deeres with the Euro hitch as well. So definitely I think Euro hitch is the way to go. It just means that then you're compatible with a lot more parts. So the only things that we have got on the front at the moment are the forks and the bucket, which we got with the tractor. But yeah, definitely, for getting post-hole diggers or anything else that you want to put on the front, I think the Euro hitch, or at least having some common hitch wherever you are, is a must-have rather than the pins. So anyway, I digress. With the forks, we end up getting the long ones. I think they're 1200 long or 4 foot long, and they are adjustable as well, which is really handy. We can spread it out nice and wide if we've got something heavy. I've shifted around a couple of pallets of bricks that are probably, 500 or 600 kilos, and had it, right on the outside for that to be able to carry that, or to be able to spread that load. And then you can also make it go really nice and narrow. So I've had a few sort of half pallets and things that I've been wanting to lift, and yeah, it just makes it really easy to do that. Then the other thing that we got with it is the 5-foot slasher. So it's a KL series slasher. Yeah, not really too much to say about it. It's just like any other slasher, does the job pretty well. Can't complain. And then I'll turn you around here a little. So that's the 4-in-1 bucket. That came standard with the tractor. So the forks were an added extra from the dealer, but the 4-in-1 bucket did come standard with our purchase. It's about 4.5 foot wide, and yeah, it's bloody handy. I've used it to shift some logs and stuff, as well as obviously doing some grading and some shifting of dirt and helping out with roadworks, and yeah, used it for quite a lot of stuff really. I've also started pulling out the top dam bank so we can see it from the house in years to come when I finally get around to finishing it, when we haven't got to deal with the rain and things. But yeah, definitely if you're looking for a bucket and you're not just wanting to shift grain, 401 is definitely the way to go. And yeah, can't complain with that. It's been really quite handy. It sort of spends about as much time on the tractor as what the forks do. The fourth thing that we got with the tractor in the purchase was the ripper and pipe layer. The pipe layer is not on at the moment, just the ripper. Used the ripper quite a bit. The main reason that I got it was for putting a bit of pipe in. So we've got a dam down the bottom, and then to get the water up to the house, I just wanted to get the water up. I don't think it was that dear to add on. I can't remember exactly how much it was, but I think it sort of worked out to be pretty good. So that was for the pipe layer, but then we've actually ended up using the ripper quite a lot for doing the pre-works for some of the road building. Got in first, ripped it up, and then went through with a rotary hoe, and then yeah, cleared all the dirt out with the box blade and the bucket, and then went back through after that. Also used it for ripping a few tree lines. So that's another video that I've got coming up. Probably not for a little while, because I do want to actually put the put the trees in and do a few progress shots of that as well. But up to now, I've ripped the lines and got it ready, had it sort of sit and fallow. Yeah, anyway, the ripper's been quite handy for that. We've probably used it more than I thought I would really. It has also got a reversible tine, so I've only got it on the one way for now, but when it does go blunt, you can switch around, or get it machined and sharpened up again. As well as those four things, so the bucket, the slasher, the forks, and the ripper, from the deal when we got the tractor. Also went online to Hayes and got a few extra things, mainly for, again, doing those road works. When we got the tractor, we didn't have a house yet, so building a road or a driveway to get in, and also to get down to the dam, and we've got a few other parts and stuff that we want to do. Building roads been one of the main jobs that we sort of bought this tractor for. I think in buying the tractor, it's so far saved us in the region of about probably 20 to 30 grand just in terms of doing that road working stuff. Obviously quite a few man hours have gone into that, which would have been a bit cheaper to get a contractor to do, but yeah, I mean, it's time that I've sort of had, and I've been wanting to spend time on this block here anyway, and feel like I'm here. So sort of take that with a grain of salt as to whether it's a saving of money or not. But anyway, back to Hayes, we got the 5-foot box blade, and we also got a 5-foot rotary hoe, which again, I said before, is at a mate's place at the moment. I didn't get the rotary hoe for tilling, because I don't really want to do too much tillage, but more for softening that dirt up to be able to get the roads done. And it's been bloody handy, along with the ripper and the box blade. I think if you're wanting to do any sort of road building or road maintenance, or path building or anything like that with a little tractor, I definitely think that's the winning combination. That rotary hoe just goes through, you get down your foot or so, or however much you want to take in a bite, and then just go through at the end and just scoop it up. We've got quite a clay soil here, so getting through it with a bucket is quite difficult. You might get down an inch or two, and then you sort of start struggling, and you can't get it even. Whereas as soon as you chuck that rotary hoe and chuck it on behind you, set the depth and go through, do 1 or 2 passes, then yeah, you've got your depth set. You just go through with the bucket and you just clean it out. It makes life a hell of a lot easier. Would recommend the Hayes stuff. It's Chinese, but it's just lumps of steel welded together with a cutting edge on it. Like, there's nothing terribly technical about it. The gearbox of the rotary hoe I've had no issues with either. Haven't used it a hell of a lot, but the stuff that we have used it for has been fairly heavy work for the size of what it is. But yeah, hasn't let us down. And I'll probably be going back to them to get a couple other things as well in time. Yeah, well that pretty much wraps up our implements and the bits and pieces that we got with it. If you've got any questions on any of that stuff, yeah, make sure you fire away in the comments. More than happy to answer some questions if need be. I might quickly run through a few of the specs themselves for the tractor and the loader itself. And then, yeah, we'll get through a couple of the pros and cons. Righto, well I have printed out a little cheat sheet for myself, the specs. So I'll run through the specs of the loader itself. So for the KL40 itself, the maximum lift height to the pivot pin is 2.5 meters. I think that's probably a little bit ambitious. It's yeah, you could sort of get up there, but whenever you've got anything, obviously you got to take into account the little bit of weight in the bottom. I've definitely found myself getting unstuck a couple of times loading things into the trailer, and it probably is also because I've got the 4-foot forks and it's only a 4-foot wide trailer. But yeah, the forks do come down a little bit past that pivot pin, so you can get it just up and over, and then by the time you dump something in, it can be a little bit interesting to try and get out. So 2.5 meters is the spec that's on here. The lift capacity at 1.5 meters, or 1.52 meters, is 832 kilos. So again, I reckon I've probably had about 600 odd kilos worth of bricks on the forks, and I've had them loaded up so that they're about maybe 3 foot, or 3 or 4 bricks wide on there, so they're not sitting too far out. And yeah, it's a little bit sketchy when you get it up much more than, I don't know, 200 mil. And that's whenever I do anything that's got the heavy lifting. The heaviest thing that we've got is the slasher, and it sort of sits out quite far back, so I've always got the slasher on for doing that sort of thing. With that 600 odd kilos, I have felt the back wheels coming up a little bit. There's no ballast in them. Ballast doesn't really seem to be a thing that's the done thing in Australia. Not really too sure why. I wouldn't mind getting ballast in them. But for the moment, I haven't got ballast in them, and it wasn't really something that was that easy to organise when buying the tractor. For this tractor, you can also get a KB2475L backhoe. We haven't really had a need for a backhoe. I haven't really missed a backhoe. I've never really been thinking, oh gee, this would be a job that would be nice to have a backhoe for. So yeah, depending on what you're wanting to do with your tractor, sort of leave that up to you. But for us, definitely a backhoe hasn't been anything that we were ever really wanting or needing. But just thought I'd throw it in there that it is an option if you'd like to go that way. Alrighty, well that brings us up to the specs of the tractor itself. So again, I'll use my little cheat sheet. Being CK42, it sort of correlates to being a 42 horsepower tractor. So the specs say it's 42 horsepower at 2800 RPM. And it's also got engine gross horsepower at 38. So yeah, not too sure how they count their losses there. It's got a displacement of 1.826 litres, so yeah, 1800 cc's or thereabouts. Fuel tank capacity is 34 litres. I normally fill it up with a 20 litre Jerry. I'll wait until the fuel light is on or nearly on, until it's right down low, put the 20 litres in, and yeah, it gives you just the fuel neck left, so it's quite a handy size. We went with the Hydrostat. I think this does also come in a 12x12 manual transmission. Not sure if it's a power shift or what sort of a transmission it is, but we ended up going with the 3-range Hydrostat. Initially I was going to go with the manual. I think you get a bit more power for it, and anyway, ended up just going with the Hydrostat, which I am quite happy with. Mentioned before about having kids and things, or older kids being able to drive it. Be able to tuck the wife on there nice and easy, and she's happy to go out and do some slashing, and yeah, it's really quite an easy tractor to drive. I was worried about it overheating, which it hasn't done. We've done slashing in 40 odd degrees and not really had an issue with it. But yeah, that's the Hydrostat's sort of done a bit better than what I thought it would. It has got a rear diff lock, so the diff lock in this is basically just a pedal when you sit on the front of the seat. You just duck your heel onto this pedal as you're going, and it's just while you've got your foot on that little pin, it locks the rear diff in. So haven't really used it a great deal, but yeah, there have been a few moments where we've got a bit a little bit sticky, a little bit stuck, and helped us get out of bogs. Number of remote valves is standard. As I mentioned before, it's got 2 sets of rear remotes. Inside the cab, there's a black and a blue lever. I've got ours hooked up to the blue one, which is currently going to the hydraulic top link. Definitely if you're in for a tractor of this sort of size, wanting to do the same sort of stuff as what we are, I think the hydraulic top link is a bit of a game changer. I would like to get a tilt kit as well. They've been a bit hard to find, but yeah, the hydraulic top link, I'll put a link in the description for it, but it's a backhoe unit. Did also take a little bit of tracking down and to get the right lengths and stuff, but yeah, as I said, I'll put a link down, and I would definitely recommend getting one if you've got a tractor of this sort of size. Used it for being able to have the slasher all the way down, but then being able to tilt it up for doing, you know, the sides of like the dam bank or other bits of mounds of dirt and things, as well as obviously for the box blade. The box blade, it's almost useless without it. Makes it a lot better to use. So yeah, there's that. So as I mentioned before, the Euro hitch on the front is a bit of a game changer, and it is something that I would definitely recommend going with if you're in the Australian market. Another thing that I would recommend is on the back of it, rather than having like a quick attach or something like that, or a quick hitch, is just having the balls in the bottom of your 3-point linkage. So there's a little bit of a gripe with this particular purchase on this. But yeah, definitely it's the system I would go with. You've got a pin in the top link, but the top link's quite easy to get in and out. And then it's just got the 2 balls, which have these little levers that you can pull up and release them. The issue with this one here is I didn't really know that I needed a stipulator. I didn't really know what the difference was in them. But make sure that you get the standard fitment, either Cat 1 or Cat 2 balls when you order a tractor. This thing here, I'm not too sure what it means on the bottom arm, but it's got DL series Cat 1. But the DL series Cat 1, whatever that is, the balls are slightly smaller than a standard Cat 1 ball. So what that means is that it's near on bloody impossible to buy replacement balls. Not the end of the world, just makes it a bit of a pain in the ass when you're changing over attachments on the back. Ideally, I'd like to have a set of balls on each attachment. So 2 for the slasher that have got the pins in them all the time, ready to go, 2 for the box blade, and 2 for the rotary chiller, or the rotary hoe. Just means then you can back up, drop it off, go forward, back up into the next one, put your arms up and you're hooked up, rather than having to go out, unpin them, take the ball out, pin the ball back into the new attachment and go from there. Really, it's not a massive thing. It takes an extra 3 minutes, but it would be quite handy if I did have that option. It's probably more of a pain in the ass than what it sounds, to be honest. It's really one of the biggest gripes that I have got with this purchase that I wish that I'd known earlier. So yeah, take it from me, learn that lesson from my experience. Yeah, definitely worthwhile doing the extra. All right, well, I've just finished telling you about the Cat 1 balls in the back as one of the issues that I've had with this tractor. It's one of 2 issues, so neither of them major. Just yeah, the small things that you get, and I suppose when you're buying something new as well, you're going to get a couple of little gremlins. The only real gremlin that we've had with it is with the loader arms, or the loader mounts. I have had on both sides, the bolts in there have just come loose. So if you've got one of these, or you're thinking about getting one of these, or any new tractor, it doesn't really matter what brand it is, not brand specific, but yeah, or any bit of equipment. If you're getting a new bit of equipment, just make sure you check your bolts after a few hours of use. But yeah, it wasn't too hard to get a bar on them and tighten them up. I tightened them up at probably maybe 20 odd hours or thereabouts, and yeah, they haven't come loose again. So not too sure what the go was there, but just thought I'd put that out there. If you have got one of these, maybe go and check your nuts. Not a bad idea to check your nuts anyway, fellas. Yeah, that's that. I've had a squeaky fan belt. I do recommend greasing the arms regularly. I'm not sure what it says. I think it says every 10 hours or something like that. I just grease them every time I put a tank of fuel in. I'm generally out the shed to put the tank of fuel in anyway. Got the grease gun there. It takes you 5 or 10 minutes to grease all the pins. I'll finish up with just a basic recommendation, which is that if I was in the same position again, wanting to buy a little tractor, this is probably the one that I would go with. If you've got the money to splash on a John Deere, then yeah, maybe look at it. But the parts for this are pretty cheap. They're fairly easy to get. There are quite a few dealers around pretty much any major town, at least where we are. We're out near Wagga. The dealers did change over not long after we got this, But yeah, there's a dealer in Wagga, there's a dealer in Griffith, there's dealers, you know, all around the countryside. So I'm pretty happy with that. They're probably a little bit harder to get parts than the Kubota. But in saying that, there's a lot of the Kubota parts, or you know, a lot of the attachments and things that are made to fit any of them anyway. So if you're looking at getting, you know, a box blade or a slasher or anything like that, go to your local Kubota dealer or any other dealer that does them. If you've got the Cat 1 pins on the back and you've got the Euro hitch on the front, it really doesn't matter what brand of attachments you go for anyway. So yeah, pretty bloody happy with this little tractor. Does everything we need it to do. There's a few jobs you go a little bit slower in, being a smaller tractor than the 48, but hasn't really held us up too much. So I hope this little video has helped you out. Hopefully, you know, if you're in the same boat as what I was, looking for some Australian content on a small tractor, then this is what you're looking for. I am planning on doing a few other reviews, as well as, if you've been watching the channel previously, I've got some aquaponics stuff, which is probably one of the main things I'm planning on doing, as well as just some general sort of farmsteading, homesteading type of things. So yeah, if you're interested, make sure you check them out, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.